Hey, everybody, it's Christian Pedersen joined by Dan Dickow back for another Gonzaga Nation podcast. And this one, we actually are coming to you with what I feel like is we've reached a major milestone. And that is summer break is almost over. School is almost back in session. And therefore, the college basketball season is almost about to begin. And Dan, you mentioned last week when we were on the show talking about kind of where we were in the craziness of all this summer. And you were mentioning that players were off on their own last little stretch of summer break before coming back and getting locked into camp and getting things started with the school year. So I'm curious, can we tell people that college basketball season is almost right around the corner? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can start saying it's right around the corner. I know it's less than 11 weeks away from the first game, so less than 80 days, 75 days-ish till the first true game of the season. I think my math is right, if I look at that. So, let me look at that real quick. We got all of September, all of October, first games usually around the 6th. Yeah, we're right there about the 75-day mark. So it is right there. When you say end of summer, I think this is an important time for players to just get away. Nowadays, and we've talked about this a number of different times on different podcasts, nowadays there's so much control in the world of college basketball with summer school, with practices, with individual workouts and strength workouts. The coaches have their fingertips on guys literally, 24 hours a day in regards to their schedule. So it's a great chance for them to get home, hang out with friends, hang out with family, clear their mind, get into the gym and just be creative with it. I think that's a big thing that's missing these days for a lot of players is just the mindfulness of being creative to impact your own future in your game, I think is missing. But, you look at the Gonzaga's roster and follow some of the guys on social media like Nolan Hickman. He's back in the Seattle area. He just ran a camp for kids through his Give Back Foundation. So he's doing positive things. Ben Gregg was playing in the Portland Pro-Am the last couple of weekends down in Portland where former Zag Kyle Wilcher plays and some other really good players play. But he also kind of did some things. He's doing a backpack raise for kids in that Portland Clackamas area where he grew up to kind of give back and help them get ready for school. So chance to get away from the core group that you're going to spend. I mean, literally, if you think about it, guys will start trickling in right before Labor Day. School starts at Gonzaga right after Labor Day. So this is probably their last full week at home. So it is the end of summer. And once you hit that September mark in practice, there's classes starting, all that. I mean, the team is your family. You see them every day for hours on end, September, October, November, December, January, February, hopefully deep into March. And if things all go well, portions of April. So you're talking about a good 7-8 month stretch with the same guys. And so it's very important that guys are getting a break so they're refreshed coming back to Spokane.
Pretty awesome, though, that you mentioned in all of that these guys are taking their time off to do charitable efforts and give back. And that really seems like, it's kind of leadership and qualities that you want in kids on your roster.
Yeah, Coach Few's always done a good job of finding high character guys. There's a phrase that's spoken a lot in Gonzaga circles. He's a Zag, or they're a Zag. And a lot of it has to do with team over me. And understanding that, there are other parts to your experience at Gonzaga other than just putting the ball in the basket. And we've seen that from a number of different guys over the years. A recent great example of that would be Rajier Bolton and some of the things that he was doing in the community in his short 2 years here. So, I think that's something that many times when people look at, hey, who's Gonzaga recruiting? Oh, maybe he's, he doesn't fit a fan's particular eye. But Coach Few and staff look at the big picture. What's the skill set? What's the character? How do they fit in together? And how are they going to, be a big part of what we do and hopefully, impact positively what they do. And so I think Gonzaga does a nice job of looking into, all facets of a player during the recruiting process.
Well, it certainly is interesting, or it's always a great opportunity, at least, to highlight the good moments of social media and being able to follow these kids.
Yeah.
Normally, it's social media is what gets them in trouble, or yada yada. It's a lot of bad cliches for a reason, and it's great to see them being able to post this. It's also, though, the kids don't ever really fully unplug, maybe the way that you were able to in your day, and or get away from it. But with them coming back in about a week or so, maybe two, to get really dialed in, like, what do those first, what is it, 5 practices, 10 practice, like, what do those first couple of weeks on campus for the Gonzaga team look like?
Yeah, it's really changed over the years. I mean, 20 years ago and even, 12 years, 10 years ago, you get back to school, you do your conditioning tests, you start up with individual workouts, and you play open gym probably 3 to 4 days a week. And then you have your strength conditioning workouts probably 3 days a week. Now, with the way the NCAA is changed their calendars in regards to where coaches can be hands-on, you still get your strength and conditioning workouts. You still have your open gyms. You still have your individual workouts. But what the NCAA has allowed is they've started to allow group workouts a couple times a week, and then quickly built into 5-on-5 practices much earlier than years past. I mean, it used to be, the term Midnight Madness came about because the NCAA had a date where it was like a hard and fast. Okay, October 15th at midnight in your time zone, you can start practice. And so, many schools took advantage of that and said, okay, we're going to start practice right at 12:01. Other schools, they're like, okay, guys, get your rest. We're coming at 6 for 2-a-days, and we're going to have 2-a-days for the first, week of practice, and make it a training camp, so to speak, based around players' class schedule. But that's slightly shifted and changed a little bit over the years because they've allowed more hands-on work earlier in the school year. But you still see a lot of these schools and programs make a big deal about a Midnight Madness type event. Kansas is the one that comes to mind the most when you hear that name, because they've always done a good job of bringing recruits. And Fog Allen or Allen Fieldhouse at Kansas I've heard stories of how, even for a midnight scrimmage, it would be sold out, packed. Crowd would be going nuts. And so that's something that a lot of coaches and programs aspire to have, but there's only one Kansas. There's only one or two schools that can get that type of response at midnight. And they do it to get recruits on campus a lot of times, and really kind of sell the deal in the recruiting process. Now, Gonzaga, they've done that Midnight Madness years ago when that was the drop dead date to start. Over the last 8 to 10 years or so, they've started up they call it Kraziness in the Kennel, where it's essentially, hey, we get a few weeks into school, usually about a month. It's typically, I think, the first weekend in October, and they line it up with like the Gonzaga school calendar, where it's a fall family weekend. So a lot of families will be coming and visiting their college sons and daughters for the first time, and they kind of have this opportunity to see what the Kennel is really like. Because again, we know a lot of students go to Gonzaga because they know about Gonzaga through the basketball program. So those are just a couple things that, unique tie-ins to the dates and the reasons behind those dates and how things have slightly shifted over the years.
Fair enough. So give the people, like, where does how do people get excited right now without getting overly excited and wasting their, do they need to start paying attention in 2 weeks, in 10 days, like in a month? How much more time do the fans have?
Well, obviously with us at Gonzaga Nation, we try to provide content so people are excited year round, and give you just enough coverage in the off season where you can feel like you stay in the loop and you have, some insight as to why things happen and how they happen, and all of the kind of things behind the scenes. But at the same time, now that we've got a clear cut start to a school year, and that's when people start looking at, hey, college football, And if you're a true basketball fan, basketball's right around the corner. So, fans are going to be, tuning in a little bit more to what we do. And we're providing a lot of content. We're currently working with Zags Collective, as we've talked about, where we're going to be releasing quite a bit of content and interviews with the current players. We've already recorded a couple of them right now for players that are out of the country because the NIL rules are unique and different. The international players, for them to participate in NIL, they can't be on United States soil. So we're doing some unique, creative ways to interview and connect with them and help their experience at Gonzaga alongside the Zags Collective.
Absolutely love that. Hopefully you guys are all ready for what is coming. Hopefully another great season with Dan and company is right around the corner for your enjoyment. Make sure you subscribe to Gonzaga Nation wherever you get your podcasts. Dan, before we let everybody go, this is always a WCC wide themed episode at some point. And I just got to ask, is there any last notes on conference change right now? It seems like it has settled back down. It's fine if there aren't any, just want to round it out with that.
Yeah, it's settled down for sure, but I think a lot of it is it's going to happen soon because you look at those Pac-4 schools now, Oregon State, Washington State. They're in the most precarious position. They've got to figure out something that makes sense for them quickly because nothing against those two schools, but they kind of lack the name cachet, and then they also lack the endowments and the alumni financial base that a Stanford and a Cal have. And that's one of the reasons the ACC has been sniffing around Stanford and Cal. Would have thought we would have had an answer by now if Stanford, Cal were going to the ACC, which because there's no answer, I would imagine and expect they're not. And the last that I read over the weekend was, those four schools are trying to stay together and figure out, how they can, move forward branded as the Pac something, whatever it may be. So whether they try to poach some schools from the WAC, the Mountain West, it's hard to say, but I don't think this is going to linger on too much longer in regards to those four schools. And who knows at that point, is there something presented to Gonzaga and other WCC schools that makes sense maybe to create some unique merger of some sort? Because that's one of the things that I heard floated over the last week or so, a Pac West conference where you have the four schools that are left. Most or the majority of the WCC now, nobody wants to share which schools they don't want included in that merger of a league. And then a few schools from the Mountain West. I think that has some really real possibilities, but I haven't seen anything that makes me think there's anything concrete in the future coming out in the next few days. But we can say that now. And remember, 2 weeks ago, nobody figured Colorado was leaving, and then the next week, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Utah, all those schools.
Yeah, there's no sense in us trying to lock in any of this content at all because we try to say, oh, no, it's done. And then waiting in the wings is a complete reorganization of 5 more conferences the second we hit stop recording this episode. So no, but yeah, I'd stand entirely with you on that Pac West being a great idea. If for no other reason, then I don't want it to be all East Coast and Midwest conferences absorbing everybody. I would like to see a brand remain out here. And I feel like Gonzaga hopefully has a major part to play in that.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things that, started leaking over the weekend is Apple is really interested in getting into live sports and the streaming aspect of it. So now that we hear that, who knows? Apple may buy ESPN at a good value, a good price. But with that, where were the Pac-12 schools in really kind of being patient? I know they were very patient, otherwise they wouldn't have held on so long before jumping ship. But had a couple of those schools waited just a little bit longer, because it sounded like there was a deal on the table for Apple to have the broadcast streaming rights for the Pac-12 or the Pac-10, because USC and UCLA were leaving. But it sounds like Apple could be back in the picture to broadcast some of those schools' games.
I know that you don't particularly watch a lot of games in some sort of consumer fashion because you're sitting about 3.5 feet to the side of the court, living your best life, calling these games. But I would love it if you would go check out what Apple is doing with like MLS and Major League Baseball, because it's really interesting. And sometimes it's extremely hit or miss, but I feel like more of the error and the miss is on the, like, who they have as the broadcast team or what the cost is. And it's not really on the deliverables of like how easy it is to go to an Apple TV app and then find a game. Like, it is amazingly simple and well-engineered technology. So I think that if they get their teeth into something like a Pac West conference, they'll change the college broadcasting game, because it really doesn't seem like people want to sit at a TV and flip between ABC and Fox and like just kind of watch whatever game is being fed to them. They want to go find the game they want to watch. And I think
a lot of it is now a second screen experience. I mean,
Yep.
you'll watch a game on TV, and then you'll have your laptop or your iPad or your phone on your lap, and you'll watch a second game, or you'll scroll through Twitter for like the fan experience of it. And I can only imagine there are people that do that sitting in stadiums watching football games, or in arenas watching basketball games. So, I don't think broadcasting as we know it over the last however many years is what we're going to see 5, 10, 15 years from now. I think there's going to be some creative and unique things that come about. And I think the companies that are most forward thinking and ready to move and adjust to the technology and the platforms are going to be the ones that have success. And that also means the schools and the leagues that are open to change are going to have some success with that too.
Yeah, it certainly seems like Gonzaga is poised to be like one of those like brand influence leaders of like changing how the modern day landscape of college broadcasting or colleges and broadcasting interact. That seems like something for another podcast, though. Anything else for the WCC or Gonzaga this week that we need to close it out with fans before we say goodbye?
Nope. All good here.
Fair enough, my man. Look at that. Just like that, all good here. Summer is over. Next time we speak to you guys, we will be at orientation, I guess. We'll try and have this year. But yeah, no, welcome back to the college basketball season. Next time we talk to you, make sure you subscribe to Gonzaga Nation wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star review, rate us, follow us on social at Fan Nation Zags. Talk to you guys later.